Hey, everybody. Hey, good morning, Frank, TBA, Matt. Awesome. Good to see you all here today. Sorry, I'm clearly running a bit late. Work has been just totally getting to me these days. I'm traveling every week and just getting back on like Friday nights and barely enough time to record anything. Totally everything without a guitar. So anyway, so live streams are just kind of fun. Can you hear me okay? Is everything okay with the with the noise? Hi, Robert. I'm not getting any feedback on the can you hear me? So oh, cool. Glad you can hear me. Sounds okay. All right, good. All right, we will at least start with the sort of the lesson. So today, I want to talk just a little bit about I called it Bell Bottom Gospel. And hey, Mike, good to see you. Everybody, good to see everybody here. I call it Bell Bottom Gospel because somebody, I think it was Matt, asked for, actually after we did last time, the lesson or the live stream last time, said, hey, why don't we do some gospel progressions? And I know a number of people have asked for progressions. So today we'll actually go over one. And I was listening to Bell Bottom Blues. And I just thought, wow, first of all, I love the song. Everybody who says like Clapton's overrated, listen to that song, please. He's playing over good changes and playing great notes. He's playing like George Harrison would, man. Really nice notes in that one. Anyway, I noticed that it's a gospel chord progression, the main chord progression. So the main chord progression, let me see if I can move this just a little bit so you can see my messy office there. And that's not a bathrobe hanging out. That is a flannel shirt. Okay. So the main progression of the song is kind of like it goes like this. Or so it has some cool things in there. And I just realized that is a typical gospel move right there, where you're playing the 3 chord as a major or as a seventh instead of as a minor. So if you think about that chord progression goes from a C to an E7 or an E, to an A minor, to a C/G. So a C with a G on the bass, then an F, then a G, and then, a turnaround that's like kind of F, C, G. Something like that. What's interesting, I think, is that if we play the game, what chord does not belong with the others, all of the chords are what's called diatonic. That means they're in the key of C major. So you've got C major, which obviously is in the key of C major. Let's skip the next one for just a second. You've got A minor. If you break down the notes in an A minor chord, you've got A, you've got C, and you've got E. All of those are in the C major scale, right? You can tell because there's no flats or sharps. Okay, so A, C, and E, that's an A minor chord. So that's all contained in the C major scale. How about C major with a G in the bass? Well, yeah, sort of by definition, that's in the key of C. I got my dog going out there. Sorry about that. Pokey hears something outside. I don't know what it is, squirrel or something. Anyway, so that's C. And then how about F? Right, well, F is F, A, and C, all in the C major scale. And then, of course, G. Right, and we've got G, B, and D. And all of those are in the C major scale. So over all those chords, you can just play notes in the C major scale or in C major pentatonic, and it's going to sound okay. But when you go to play the E7, it doesn't sound right. If you just play the C major scale, you're going to hit some sour notes. And E7 is made up of the notes of E. So far, so good. That's in the C major 7, or in C major. G sharp. Okay, there's no G sharp in C major, right? And so right there, you've got it. B, which is good. That's in the C major scale. And then the seventh note, which is a D natural, which is also in the C major scale. So you can kind of get away with playing a D natural, but that's the seventh. And sort of theory says that if you're playing notes that really matter and you're trying to play chord tones, you should emphasize the third of the chord or the seventh of the chord, because those are really the flavor notes, if you will, in the chord. Now, it doesn't mean you always have to, but they're really good notes to end up on. The root is another really strong note, but the third and the seventh are really strong notes to end up with. And so when you do that, when you play the third of E, it sounds, it sounds outside unless you play on that E major. Let me show you what I mean, okay? So let me just try and play sort of deliberately. I'm going to try and play a backing track here. Hopefully you can hear the backing track. I'll play it a couple of times. Almost hit the end stream button there. Sorry about that, folks. So you saw what was going on there. What I'm playing, or what I was playing there, is you can just play the C major scale. I was talking about this, I think, a couple of times ago, and saying, one way to kind of a gateway into playing jazz or to play more tonally and to handle changes is to find a key center that's going to work for you. In this case, C really works well. Thanks, TJ. Find a key center that works well. In this case, C works really well, but then play very deliberately to the chords that do not fit that particular scale, or that particular tone center, if you will, or key. So in that case, it's the E7. And you'll notice that over the E7, what note did I play? I played something like this. I'll just make this up. But so that note, that line right there, is a key little progression. That's in C, that's a G. And if I move to this, that's a G sharp. And I can play that. That's the third of the E chord. And it sounds great. And another note that I can use is this flatted seventh of that E7, which is a D. So I can play sort of over the C. I play the third. I'm bending to it. And now I can go down to this D. Now that's the third of the A minor. And play stuff like that. So so that all that's basically it. I mean, I'm not doing anything crazy there. I think you can play all of those and emphasize all of the chord changes if you want to. You can literally play something like this. Right, that kind of stuff. And all I'm doing is outlining the chord. Now, I think that happens to sound kind of boring if you do it too much. But if you do it a little bit, it sounds great. So, emphasizing up here, I'll tell you one thing that really helps me when I'm trying to think of this stuff, and I realize that I don't have a scale that I can just wail over, right? I can kind of do that with a C major pentatonic, but there's some notes I really want to play that I can't play. So, and some notes that are going to sound a little bit sour, a little bit not quite right. So whenever I hit that E7, I think very deliberately and say, okay, one thing I can do is I can think of the chords in each of the positions that I play. Like if I'm going to play, let's take this position. This is kind of home base at the 5th fret, right? So I've got a C right here. And now I'm looking for that E. Well, I've got one right here. And now an A minor. See how I'm not moving my fingers that much. They're all in this position. And then a C with a G bass. And then an F. And a G. C, G, and it's all there. So if I want to get to those notes that are key in that, I can very quickly just sort of visualize those and play those, and that helps. And then I think just thinking about it makes a big difference. Years ago, there was a jazz tape where I was really trying to learn jazz way back when, and you know, I never really got very good at it. But one thing that Herb Ellis, he was saying, well, first thing you ought to do is learn jazz blues, because if you can't play jazz blues, you know, don't even waste your time with the other stuff. I thought, okay, yeah, I don't even know how to do that. And he did this jazz blues in G. And at one point, you know, in a jazz blues, you go to the 3rd, and guess what? It's just like it is in gospel. It's a 7th chord instead of a minor chord. So if we're, and I'll go over the harmonized major scale in just a second. Yeah, you did, TJ. Love it. Hey, Scott, good to see you. You know, what else was I going to say? I was kind of in the middle of that, and TJ got my mind off track there. But he said, oh, when you go to that E7, which is not a chord in there, just play the 3rd of the chord. He said, you don't have to, but if you do, it's going to sound really good. And it never dawned on me before. And I tried it and I was like, oh my God, it sounds incredible. It sounds like I know what I'm doing. So, you know, I think that's really the key, is if, you know, you can copy other people's stuff, but to sound like you really know what you're doing, you got to think about the chords and how they fit. So I've done this. I know I have a video. I'll try and put a link to it in the description after this. Called the harmonized major scale. And I should probably do a new one, because that one was kind of a crappy old one. But with a harmonized major scale, if we're just doing triads, right? Triads are 3-note chords. Sevenths are 4-note. They're built out of 4 notes. If we just do triads, and I'll do this in G, the 1 chord, which is G, would be a major. The 2 chord is a minor, which is A. The 3 chord is a minor, which is B. The 4 chord, which is C, would be a major. The 5 chord is a major. The 6 chord is a minor. The 7th chord is a diminished. And the 1 chord we're back to is a major. A little bit of intonation problems there, I think, on this guitar. Anyway, so if you take that, and you'll notice that, like if we were playing, so if you take the gospel chord progression, turn this down a little bit, and that's in, oh, you'll hear it on Dock of the Bay. You'll hear it on a number of popular songs that are like that. Not Try a Little Tenderness. So that's the other one. I've Been Loving You Too Long, Otis Redding. If you try it in those, that 3 chord, right? It goes from G to B, but it's a 7th chord, not a minor. So in key would be this. But it's a surprising thing when you put that 7th chord there, which is really super cool. Hey, Garrett, good to see you. And that's exactly what's going on in Bell Bottom Blues. It goes from a C to an E, but that E is normally a minor. Here it's a 7th, which is the gospel progression there. Really sweet. Really a sweet thing there. All right. So, you know, I don't know what else to say about this one. You know, you can carry it on to all sorts of other things, but I think that's basically what I wanted to talk about was, hey, here's this chord progression, right, which substitutes in the 7th or a dominant 7th for the 3rd chord there. When it goes, yeah, Sea of Love's very similar. Yep, yep. Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out. That's another. It's not a Clapton song, but Clapton did it, and or maybe I can't remember. It was Clapton or was it Peter Green? I think it was Clapton. Anyway, same sort of thing. The rest of the chords in that song, in Bell Bottom Blues, are really cool too. The transition is interesting. After the you've got the whole thing. But when it goes from the solo into the next part, which kind of goes like this, right? So instead of the minor there, it plays a major on A. Very cool. And it's on the Do you want to see me beg you to take you back or something? I can't remember the verse. It's too emotional for me to sing it. So that goes A to E to F sharp minor. That's D back to E and then to A. And then it gets really cool by going from like an A major. It does this, which is very typical, right? A major to a major seventh to a A7th to a D, then an E. That's in the I Don't Want to Fade Away, right? So A to A major 7th to A7th to E. And there's lots of songs that have that progression as well. That is one of my faves. One of the greatest rock songs, pop songs ever, in my opinion, is Strawberry Fields, and that has that, right? That's the beginning. Basically it. There's another, if you're into electric light orchestra, which I was for a time, there's a song called Mr. Blue Sky. And there's a little interlude in there where it kind of goes like this. Ending back on the A. That's really neat. Very cool. Yeah, Evil Woman's a great song. Doesn't have this progression in it though. But I just love that progression. So there's probably a lot of other places I can think of that have that progression. Strawberry Fields and Mr. Blue Sky are two that I remember. The Let Me Take You Down because I'm going to. Yeah, great. Oh, all right. Anyway, it's a great little song, and there's a lot of scope for playing it over. So that's a great backing track, by the way. And if you're doing this, actually, let me show you one more thing. So. And this kind of goes in the, you don't have to play every single chord. You just have to play the chord that doesn't fit and play very differently. So pick a scale, and hopefully it's a good scale. In this case, when we analyzed the chords, we found out that C major was a good scale to use for this, except over that E7. And then over the E7, play very deliberately. So let me see if I can give you some more example of that. Without messing up too much. So let me try one more time. I'll just play a couple of times through this, okay? So again, I won't say that was the greatest solo or anything, but what I'm doing is I'm just playing a C major scale in different positions. But when it comes to that E chord, I'm thinking, oh, like right here, I thought I'm going to play the 7th of that E chord, which is an easy one because that's also in the C major scale. So I played this. So I play this over that flatted 7th over the E7. And one of them, I played this. That's just an E chord. But there's countless examples of where you can play that so it doesn't get too boring. You know, all that. So just look for that one chord, play a parent scale, and pick a parent scale by analyzing the chords and see if you can do that. A lot of times, simple changes are like that. There'd be one chord that is introduced into a song that makes it a little bit different. You can't just wail on one scale. So anyway, that's that. That's that. So I don't have anything else for you this morning. I'm glad you could join me today for coffee or whatever. I have my second cup of coffee there. And I think I've just taken I have to go rake leaves. So that's what I'm going to go do this afternoon is rake leaves and prepare for my trip to DC next week. I got to go down to DC, which is not, I'm not looking forward to, but mostly the traffic, not so fun. I get to work with good people, which is fun, but I never like to travel. I don't like being away from my family and my guitars. So anyway, that brings me back to this. So thanks a lot for sharing your Sunday with me this morning. I do appreciate it. Hope you got something else. Hey, everything, if you have any sort of, thanks, Garrett. If you have any ideas for what we can do on Sundays, any thoughts on what chats you guys want to have? This was more of a lesson than a chat. But I'm all ears. Always happy to hear from you guys. Okay. So let me know. C major is a very country key. Yeah, I guess it is. Oh, maybe see if I played a G, if I played a G scale over a C chord. That sounds country. That sounds country to me, but anyway, anything's going to sound country on this thing. It's nice for country. D minor is the saddest key. Yes. So says Geert and Nigel. All right. You guys, we'll see you around, okay? Have a great Sunday and have a great rest of the week.